Have you heard about the benefits of Yoga Nidra and thinking about giving it a try? Well, stick around because I'm going to share how I first heard about it, which led me to trying it, and then why I actually got trained to lead Yoga Nidra sessions. My first introduction to Yoga Nidra was about actually, no, it was over 7 years ago now. There was this donation-based yoga studio in the city of LA, and they offered these introduction sessions to other healing modalities, not just other lineages of yoga, but also alternative healing methods, which was really amazing. It was great. Surprisingly, that yoga studio is still there. I say that because period between like 2020, 2021, even 2022, a lot of yoga studios in city of LA especially closed. It was a hard time for them. They usually depend on group classes, and I won't get into it, but that was a hard time to have groups, small groups, let alone large groups. So I saw a lot of places that I went to within a couple years before that have to shutter their doors, which was sad. I remember they did go online for that time period, but then it seems like they're right back in person. The sad part, though, is now they're not offering the other healing modalities, because besides the introduction classes, like the samples, they would even have people that were associated with that studio. Either they taught yoga there. If they offered a healing modality, they'd be able to do donation-based sessions to raise money for the yoga studio itself, which was a really cool idea, but they don't do that anymore. And I thought that was sad because not only did I get to sample Yoga Nidra, I also got to try craniosacral there for the first time. So it was really a great idea, which unfortunately isn't available anymore. But for that stage of my healing journey, really helped me a lot for sure. And it was a great introduction to things I wasn't aware of at that point or didn't really know if I wanted to try. In their newsletter, they announced that there was this Yoga Nidra class that was donation-based coming up. And it piqued my interest because I'd gone to an Ayurvedic healer before that, and she was somehow connected to this Yoga Nidra teacher who was mainly an Ayurvedic healer first as well. They studied at two different places, but they were both like Ayurveda was their main modality they offered. And I asked my Ayurvedic healer if she knew of this lady who was going to be teaching this class, and she said, "Oh yeah, she's exceptional." So I was like, okay, I got to check this out. So I did. I didn't really have much to lose, and I was very open-minded, very much in my spiritual seeking phase then. And the class was amazing. What was so nice about it for me, although it's kind of funny, and I'll get into why right after, but very soon into the Yoga Nidra session, I went down. I don't call it sleep, although, I mean, it felt like it. I felt like a rest, a deep rest. But it's really the theta state, where you're not quite asleep, but you're not quite awake. And I've learned since then that's where you can heal on the subconscious level. Not too many modalities bring me down there. The other two I know for sure are Reiki and those float pods, the sensory deprivation tanks. Yoga Nidra is the only one offhand where I could think that it would bring me there consistently. I should say there's been a random one with other modalities as well, but the three consistent ones are those, and Yoga Nidra is definitely one of them. The crazy thing was that not many people showed up to this class. it was including myself 3 tops, maybe even only 2 including me. I think it was one of the owners or managers of the yoga studio and me. So it was a very small class with lots of personal attention, to say the least. I didn't need it to be that way, but it is the way it ultimately turned out. Which I was kind of feeling bad. I'm like, oh man, this class was so amazing. This teacher was so good. And it was donation based. And here no one really showed up. But it wasn't awkward. I was just so fascinated with how good I felt that it really wasn't a big deal. At the beginning of the class, the teacher even passed out this small handout. I think it was just a piece of paper too with the brief history of Yoga Nidra, the founder of the lineage, and the people who passed it on after that. So it was a really nice setup going into it. It wasn't too long, but at least gave me an idea and an appreciation of what I was going to be doing. When I started, though, it is actually difficult because in Yoga Nidra, you're paying attention to each body part one at a time. And not even just like a whole hand, but even each individual finger at a time you could be doing, which we certainly did in this one. So if you have a restless mind, which I absolutely did at that time, it can be very hard to get settled in. But that's the point, because while there can be difficulty at the beginning doing that, if you just push those thoughts to the side and keep at it, then you fall into it. And you really do go into a very relaxed state, and it brings you out of your head, even for people who have trouble doing it any other way. She also was adamant on saying, this is not Nidra, because Nidra means sleep, and you're not sleeping. Might feel like you are, but it's different than just sleep. She emphasized very much how it's important to say Yoga Nidra, because it's a yogic sleep, which, as I mentioned, to me, feels like that theta state where you're kind of between both worlds. The somewhat humorous thing is that since then, I haven't heard anyone or seen anyone anywhere refer to it as just Nidra, but apparently someone did it to her because she really doubled down on that then and again in her training after that. Afterwards, I felt great. And I was excited about it because here I was, someone who had lots of anxiety and trouble relaxing, and even just depression issues. But wow, I felt refreshed, reinvigorated. And I was really happy about that. We had a mini closing circle where we got to share our experience. And I was just elated about the state I was in. I was like, I got to go to sleep. It felt so good. And she's just kind of looking at me like, okay, yeah. Kind of that like just smile, being nice, but at the same time, relaying, I'm kind of an idiot, which I wasn't even picking up on in that exact moment, but I put it together later. It wasn't until her training, which I did take, probably around half a year later, that she said, you're not supposed to go to sleep. Ideally, you'll just stay present during the whole thing, being aware of each individual body part one at a time. So I'm like, oh, and that's when a light bulb went off over my head. I did not necessarily do it correctly, but it was amazing. And I still think to this day, whatever's supposed to happen, happens. And that's the healing I needed in that moment. But like I said, after I took that introductory class, I followed her and signed up to a newsletter. Then when I saw she was offering that training, I thought, yeah, this is something I want in my toolkit. I believe it was 3 full days. It was either 3 or 4 full days in a row. I know one full day makes a difference, but this is going back a ways. Either way, we got a lot of experience, both receiving, as she led towards the beginning, doing the classes, and then running it with partners, both as we would conduct the session and they would do it for us. There was definitely a lot of practice, so there was no shortage of that. It was funny because on one of the last days, when I realized you weren't supposed to just sleep through the whole thing when it was your turn to receive, I noticed during the morning session, it was much easier to be aware during the whole process. But the evening ones were more difficult to stay fully present. When I told her that, she said, "Oh, you could do one sitting." So I did do a full session sitting in a chair. And it was nice because if I started to nod off, I would catch myself. At the end, it was a really good group, and I was so excited to share it with others. Problem was, back then, it still hadn't really caught on yet. This is when healing and spirituality were starting to come into the mainstream, but it hadn't broken through completely yet. That would be for like 2 or 3 more years later. So it was still relatively unknown at that time. Thankfully, now a lot of people know about it and are asking about it. And I've seen different yoga studios offer it, which is really nice because it really is great. And even meditation apps have various ones you can listen to, which is great because it makes it more accessible. I should also note the training I did was for classical Yoga Nidra. There is a difference because with this one, you're not supposed to use music or anything else. I've talked to a bunch of people since then, and a lot of people like music during their meditations. But one of the things we covered in depth during the training is Yoga Nidra is not meditation, and we got into the differences. I recommend trying them both out yourself, since they are both experiential practices. I could go through the list, but if you do a session of each one, you'll immediately see and feel that, okay, there are similarities between the two, but at the same time, they're very much different and each their own thing. My teacher's teacher actually started his own Ayurvedic school. It's one of the more well-known ones in the US. He was introduced to Yoga Nidra because he had what they didn't know at the time, but it seems like now he had really serious Lyme disease. He basically was incapacitated, could barely move. He also had insomnia. He would do Yoga Nidra twice a day, and that pretty much healed him. I don't know if that's the only thing he did, but he really attributes it to being the main thing that helped him during that time. So if doing Yoga Nidra can help with something as severe as that, I do believe it has many healing benefits, for sure. And the nice thing about Yoga Nidra is anyone can do it because you don't have to move around. Anyone who could preferably lie down, or if they can't do that, sit down like I did during the training, they can do it. So it's something that no matter how far gone someone is, they can try it out. And while one session can feel amazing, I believe, and I've noticed with myself, it does have a cumulative effect. My teacher shared that when she did it straight, it really changed her whole perspective and mindset. She became so much less reactive. She was happier. Things didn't really affect her. It really put her in an amazing place. And while I haven't been doing it anywhere near as long as she has, it really had a noticeable effect on me as well, especially early on in my healing journey when I had chalked myself up to just being a lost cause. So yes, I would certainly recommend checking out Yoga Nidra. The studies on it are out there, and it's really helped a lot of people. I truly believe it can improve your life. Just remember that there are different types of Yoga Nidra out there, and they're not all the same. There's the ones that play music as well. Some are short sessions. Some are titled Yoga Nidra for sleep, which my teacher would disagree. That's not what it's for. At least that's not all of what it's for. Doing it should help improve your sleep and put you back on a better sleep cycle, but it's so much more than that at the same time. Years ago, down in San Diego County, there was this yoga studio that monthly they would do this Yoga Nidra session with headphones where they'd play binaural beats. And I admit, even as a classical Yoga Nidra trainee, that did sound pretty amazing. Unfortunately, they haven't done that for a long time, and I missed out. Because like I said, I was in LA County, so going 2 counties down can be hard for just a regular class. I'm sure it was worth it, but it's hard to sometimes justify traveling a while just for a regular hour class. Although now, like I said, thinking about it in hindsight, I would have gone. I was going all out and going as much as I can, but that is one that slipped through my fingers. But if it's meant to be, I know it'll cross my path again. The other thing I wanted to note is that even if you can't sleep, which is why it helped the person who trained my teacher when he had insomnia, is Yoga Nidra is equivalent to hours of sleep. So if you can't sleep, you'll actually still get your rest. I would say sleeping is the first choice and the best thing you can do when you're supposed to. But if you can't, it's worth considering trying Yoga Nidra in its place. If you've tried Yoga Nidra and want to share your experience, put them in the comments below. Or same thing if you have any questions on it, whether you are considering it or have done it and wanted clarification on what you experienced. As always, take what I say with a grain of salt, take what resonates, and throw away what doesn't.